Okay, welcome people to the Granite Mountain Movie Club. I'm your host. I go by Granite. Today we are doing a casual reaction to the new Fallout television series. I say television, streaming series on Prime, Amazon Prime. I think it just came out on Wednesday. Today is Friday. So I think all three of us did a speed run. I don't know about you guys. I think the second half I watched on like 1.5 speed or something. Yeah, we're just gonna basically react to it. I'm curious to hear your guys' takes. What did you guys think? Especially, I guess, from the beginning. Like, what did you think initially as you're watching it?
Well, I feel like the reactions. This is cool, Frasier, by the way. The reactions started with the trailer coming out and like some of the promotional materials, and everyone was like, "Great, a woke woman, vault dweller with something." I don't know. People were upset at it, and like it didn't look great from the trailers, but like I was just like, it kind of looks like Fallout. I'm okay with all of this, like. Especially since the original Fallout, like you could pick your gender and like your character and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, I started watching the first episode and I was like, hey, this is not bad. It's kind of interesting and good, and it's like true to the feel of the game.
Yeah, yeah. Basically the same. Whenever they redo these properties, they're sort of backstopped by how woke the original thing was. Which is like it's not zero, certainly. Like a lot of this sort of it's all about capitalism, man. Like a lot of that's actually in the game too. So so I wasn't mad at it, and I mean it didn't look great. I generally like Walton Goggins, so I was sort of down to see what he did with the role. And then, yeah, my first impressions of the show were, I sort of liked the longhouse. The fact that they were sort of like the vault dwellers are clearly like NPR shitlibs, and like obnoxious in very recognizable ways. And it just sort of made me feel like, all right, these people are at least, they can smell themselves a little bit, which I thought was good.
Yeah, they're like Vermont, like white people in Vermont or something
Something like that, yeah.
They don't live at the border, or they don't live in Chicago, so they don't realize what other people are facing.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, seeing a guy walk around in power armor is pretty fun. And I thought, there was a couple interesting little touches. There was nothing about it that I thought was like, oh, it's a betrayal of the original. At least not any ways I cared about. So yeah, I liked it.
Cool. Frasier's right to bring up that trailer, because that's where so much of the conversation started. And I remember that. I mean, I took like a small shot at the trailer. Like, I just thought it looked kind of cheap or something, but I think it is fair to say that it's kind of consistent with the look and feel of the game. So kind of, whatever. But yeah, I the first, it's kind of interesting because, there's it's retro-futurism, right? About a third or a quarter of the show is set in the 1950s, right? Like it's supposed
to be. It's 2077, but yeah, pre-war, which is like the 1950s.
Yeah, it's like an alternate version of the 50s, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it's sort of like the technology of the 1950s, sort of not, sort of the Cold War, fear of nukes, but everyone's kind of post-racial, I guess. And like we know that the Walton Goggins guy, we know he's like really good because he's married to a black woman and he's got a mixed race daughter and stuff. So
and they kiss, chuds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although the black woman, oh well, maybe I shouldn't. Spoiler alert. Is not a necessarily a likable character.
True.
I wouldn't call any of it like forced diversity because, like you guys have said, it's like the game was just kind of all over the map anyway in terms of like diversity, but they make kind of all the good guys and all the bad guys mixed race, or not mixed race, but a mixed cast of races.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and well, I mean, definitely like most of the worst bad guys are white dudes, and like the complicated hero lady is like a lesbian communist woman of color. But like as far as like side characters and big characters, I mean, like the sort of banality of evil wastelanders who are like keeping slaves for organs and meat and stuff. They're like white dudes. So it's like, you know, there's some like statistical improbabilities there, but it could certainly be louder.
Yeah, and they do a funny thing, I guess, like with the communist lady who's sort of like a female. I don't know, is she like what? Who in history was like a? I don't know what she's supposed to be, like Oppenheimer or something, because she's like this brilliant,
She's like Che Guevara, but
but
Indian
also
woman.
but also the greatest scientist ever, I guess,
Oh,
because
yeah.
she figured out cold fusion. But she's a commie, and they play around with her being good or bad, and maybe you guys could help me understand. But like, she's ultimately kind of shown as good, but like she did like raid that vault and just
Yeah, and
like
like kill a
rape,
bunch of
yeah,
innocent people for no reason, and women and children.
and
Yeah.
like and facilitated like the rape of like not I guess it wasn't a rape, but it was sort of a
It was kind of rapey.
yeah, a false pretense marriage, sort like she facilitates all that, like, you know, so she's like, did she have to do that? I don't know.
Yeah,
Right, like couldn't she have come into the vault and told the truth
Yeah, or just be
or
like,
something?
I have cold fusion, guys.
well, she didn't. She needed cold fusion, and she needed the overseer to give her the codes,
Right.
and so she needed to kidnap the overseer, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Kyle McLaughlin. Yeah, she had to.
Well, it seems like she wasn't necessarily like, well, yeah, that's the thing. They portray her as she's like maybe like a flawed hero or something, but then at the same time there's like the weird naked death cult stuff, and it's like that doesn't seem good.
Yeah,
Like her whole thing doesn't seem good, but I guess, you know, she's allowed to like kill a bunch of people because her city got bombed or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think it's just revenge, right? Like
Yeah.
she's yeah, and there's a lot of that, like the sort of subverters and overthrowers of the old order are justified by how disgusting the old order was. Like uh, Maximus is like not a sympathetic character. He's like really squirrely and twitchy and weird and like
Which
uh,
I found interesting. Like I was like, this is a weird guy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he reminds me a lot of John Boyega's character in the Star Wars movies,
yeah,
and it's like such a specific type, like this like weird, awkward, cowardly black dude, which I think is like a minstrel show thing. It's like it's so weird that like everyone is so racially sensitive, but they're still doing that guy. I don't know what that's about.
Well, if you go on like Black Twitter and stuff, they, you know, they believe the black men. A lot of black men believe, you know, there's a campaign to feminize their men.
I believe that. I think that's true. You know, you're looking at like the Puff Daddy situation. I think that there's definitely something to be said for that. But like, what I found most interesting about his character was that he clearly gets this like charge, this rush from like power in a way that's like really gross and disturbing. Um, but because he took power from a guy who was like just transparently way shittier, it sort of justifies it. And I think that's like kind of the commie writers telling on themselves. It's like that's who I would be if I took power. I would take this sort of glee in sort of throwing my weight around. But you guys do too, right? So it's all good.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting that how they portrayed the Brotherhood of Steel as kind of this like amorphous, like sexless, you know, pure meritocracy, you know, kind of like endless boot camp and like just beating the crap out of each other for no reason. But then like, you know, they don't even know what sex is or whatever. And they're all kind of like priests.
Sexless, but still like kind of gay and kind of rapey.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Oh yeah, the whole show is kind of there's like a weird. So I guess my main, if I had a critique of the show, like a criticism of the show, I guess it would just be that it's it's Reddit, right? It's a very Reddit sort of thing but it's because the game is kind of Reddit too, and so included in that is like, they go from this kind of 1950s retrofuturism wholesome Chungus thing, and then very very quick the main girl's going to her like wedding night thing, but there's a very practical unerotic approach to sex, not just in that part but like later throughout the show too. She's like bored hanging out with Maximus. It's like, well, we could just have sex while we're bored, and he's like, I don't know how, or like, I don't know about that. So, but there's a whole like very Reddit thing about it. It's just sort of like,
yeah, she's not like Blast from the Past, where Brendan Fraser is like sheltered and also sexually naive and also like sort of traditionally moral. She is. I feel like the Vault Dwellers are a very good portrait of like what if you took really high IQ libtards today and just made them live underground for 200 years.
Yeah, like sex positive, but not erotic.
No, I thought of the Blast from the Past comparison as well, and like I think they kind of go for that. Like she's naive in certain ways, but also she's like super capable, similar to how the Blast from the Past guy was. But I thought it was done well, like how they portrayed her character, and but also once again true to the game, because that's how the game was. Like, you've got the nice little cartoon man, and then like he'll have his head blown off, like because he's or get radiation poisoning or whatever, and it's always like subverted by the violence of the wasteland.
Yeah, and this critique extends to the game, but like I personally would probably rather spend time in something a little more. It doesn't have to be full on like the road, the Viggo Mortensen road, but something maybe slightly more serious feeling. But that's just like, that's also the game. So I'm
the game is silly.
Yeah. So that's kind of my only like not issue with it, just something I would prefer something different. But I anticipate this is going to do really well. I think people are going to really, really like this. And, you're going to see people doing memes and costumes and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think to some extent, like the seriousness of the show is kind of undercut by the medical technology. It's like, on the one hand, it's like way more brutal, but on the other hand, like, we can sort of put a finger back on you, or like, if you blow your foot off, you can still walk around, and like, although I thought that, did you guys like the foot grinder scene? I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I thought it was good because like in the game, right, like you can get like shot a million times and then you just use a stim pack and you're fine. So I kind of liked that aspect of it, where like she just got stabbed and then used a stim pack and she's good to go. And then also the guy accidentally becoming a ghoul is kind of pretty funny.
Yeah, I thought that was neat.
Yeah, how does the ghoul thing work? They take like that drug, and that's how you get on the ghoul path.
It's like if you get too much radiation or something, you become like a zombie. But so like you can't be killed, but you could lose your ability to like reason or whatever.
Well, and you become an addict, right? Like,
right. You have to take the drugs, and that's also part of the game. Is like if you start taking drugs, like it helps you in certain ways, but like if you take too many, you get like you have to keep taking it, and so yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know the connection between the ghouls and the drugs was in the games. Is that in the games?
I don't know. I don't remember. It might be.
Yeah, I think they added that for the show, which is that basically, ghouls. For one thing, like in the game, I think the ghouls just it's just like radiation, and some people get ghoulified and some people don't. And like some of those guys are pre-war ghouls, and some of them are people who've been ghoulified like more recently. And for them, going feral is just like that's just sort of how ghouls die. Like they live forever, but they eventually turn into animals. And but in this one, it's very much connected to the drugs, and like you have to stay doing the drugs so you can. And I think they're like just drugs. Like it's not like a special ghoul drug. It's like cocaine or heroin or whatever.
I don't know if it was lore for the show, but they were hinting that Vault-Tec made the ghoul technology to make them live forever. Because the one guy was saying, well, I don't know, because they also like froze them. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what they were trying to hint at, because they didn't really explain how Goggins became a ghoul yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think one of you mentioned the violence or something as well. Maybe you didn't, but I was. That's another very Reddit element, I guess, like the cartoon violence. Like I don't know. I like on one hand I say make it more serious, or like I would probably prefer something more serious, but I'd also probably prefer less like, balloon popping heads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I liked the silly violence, and like the guy just like touching the little like chicken meat hanging off of his leg. Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I think being a fan of the games, like I was like, this is fun. and like, the pregnant lady getting stabbed in the eye, then having an eye patch. That's all good stuff.
Oh yeah. What games have you guys played? So I will say Fallout 4, which I think they're pulling, feels like a lot of this is pulled from Fallout 4, is like one of the only modern video games I've ever played. I'm not a gamer really. But what games have you guys played, and what kind of ones were they seeming to favor?
Yeah, I played 3, 4 in New Vegas, and interestingly, so the whole everything in this show takes place in California, which is only really covered in Fallout 1 and 2, and that's where Shady Sands is. Mm-hmm. And there's like there was a lot of discussion about this. Like, did they blow up Shady Sands? Spoilers, so that there wouldn't be like order and normalcy in the wasteland, for like narrative purposes. I think that's probably right. But like a lot of people were saying that they sort of like the fanboys who were like pissed off about the show, that's what they were pissed off about. They were pissed off that they blew up Shady Sands and they sort of wiped the board so they could start over with a clean piece of paper. It looks like right at the end, her dad was running away from the from them. He's running. He's sort of, they learned the truth about him and who he is, and he's run off. It looks like he's running off to New Vegas.
Yeah, he looks at the camera and says, "New Vegas." Just kidding. He doesn't. But yeah, I knew that part, and I've never played New Vegas, but I could tell. Oh, season 2 is New Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, I only played 1 and 2, so I'm used to the California setting. Although this is much more Southern California, where the other stuff is more Northern California. But Shady Sands is the town founded by the Fallout 1 character, basically.
Yeah. And I've mostly played 3, 4 and New Vegas, and New Vegas is clearly the best. Pretty much everybody outside of Bethesda acknowledges that. And so it'll be interesting because this is definitely run by the Bethesda people. So it'll be interesting to see how sort of vindictive they are about New Vegas. Because it was a great game. Everybody loved it. Everybody liked it more than what Bethesda did. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Why? What? Weird question, maybe. But what's the like tranny connection with New Vegas? Because they all seem to like it on Twitter. They're always talking about it.
I think it's just because men like Fallout.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's just for the boys. I think that's all it is.
Okay.
There's like a lot of mods you can do, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's very moddable.
Yeah, I think part of it as well, I don't know in New Vegas if you could, but like at least in Fallout 2 and beyond, I believe you could like marry people in the game and like, you know, you could change your gender and stuff like that. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of that stuff happening in Fallout where like people role play as weird genders.
It's also just Reddit, like you say.
Yeah. Hey, we forgot to ask our other guest what he thought of the show.
Oh yeah.
Jesse Lee Peterson is on the phone.
What is Jesse Lee Peterson? What are his thoughts?
I thought the Vault Dwellers they're kind of beta, but I like the Vault Dwellers. They help the people put the things together. They got the Garden of Eden creation kit, the Gek. You know about the Gek, Granite?
No, is that from the games?
Yeah, they got the Garden of Eden creation kit. And then I don't like New California Republic. They only destroy. The super mutants, they only destroy. Whereas the Vault Dwellers, they build.
They build. That's right. Incredible to hear from you, Mr. Peterson. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did we lose Granite?
So you think that the cold fusion is a bad idea for the wasteland?
Did we lose Granite though?
I think so.
Oh no.
Hi, sorry, you guys.
Oh
there?
yeah.
Sorry, my son came downstairs and my wife came chasing after him.
Oh okay. Did we lose Bennett though?
Oh, I don't know. He's
No,
muted.
I'm here.
He just
Okay.
muted. But yeah, I just had one of those wife jack moments.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I think I cut off Jesse Lee Peterson, but
Yeah, maybe he's done unless you have other questions.
oh, that's fine. No, I guess I'll get to hear it when I edit it. What do you guys think of the lead girl?
I said I'm very bullish on the lead girl.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I asked you what you meant. I don't think you told
What I
me.
mean is buy early and hold.
Like her career? Like you think she's going to be big?
I don't know about that, but I'm just pro this girl.
Yeah, she's funny. She's not. She's a little bit more omnicompetent than she should be, but that's everything now.
They did the montage at the beginning, how she did the jujitsu and the shooting practice and stuff.
I was watching out for this, and it seems like they didn't make her too
OP.
She doesn't end up doing too much. Like every time she wins, it's just sort of like a little bit of luck, and like she's not overpowering bigger people and stuff like that. It's just, she shoots first or something, and that's how she wins.
Yeah, and also like a funny thing is like the Vault Dwellers are like just healthier than the general population. And like where it seems like Maximus maybe has brain damage or is like a learning disability. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of the Brotherhood of Steel seem like they can't aim really. Like she just doesn't have those issues, so she's kind of like a slightly just at an advantageous position. And the only guy who's like really can outmatch anyone is Goggins, who's just been doing it for so long. So
yeah,
and is unkillable, I guess.
Yeah, and he had like not real cowboy, but like movie cowboy experience. So he
Mhm.
Probably more used to actually shooting guns and stuff.
No, he says in the show that he's going. He wants to go back to being a real cowboy. So I think he was.
And he was
and he was a
ex-military.
soldier. Yeah.
Yeah, he fought in the Battle of Anchorage in the T-45 power armor.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked her. I think she's got an interesting face, which is different than a pretty face. She is pretty, but it's also interesting. And so, yeah, it's just something on screen that's a little different, but they didn't take the route, like The Last of Us, the other, post-apocalyptic video game TV show, where they just made the little girl ugly for some reason. Which maybe she's ugly in the game too.
Yeah, and also they avoided the other Prime show, which is Rings of Power, where they had a female lead in Galadriel, where they just made her extremely like irritating and grating and unlikable.
The Galadriel in that show, in that Rings of Power, is also like definitionally mid too. I mean, she's pretty, but
yeah, I think she's fine, but yeah, she's not necessarily like the elf queen goddess looks or anything.
She's not Liv Tyler.
Yeah, or played by the other chick.
Yeah,
what's her name?
Kate
Lord of the Rings
something.
Yeah, Kate something.
Who is
Blanchett?
Kate Blanchett, who's much more distinct looking.
They either learned a lesson or they just stuck to general writing principles, which is to make like the person you spend the most time with somewhat likable on some metrics,
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch in that sense. And like I said, like even like the other sub characters were at least interesting to watch as well, like Goggins and the Maximus and
I was
all
not
kind of
as
interesting.
I'm probably not as charitable toward the Maximus guy as you guys were. I always kind of looked forward to his segments being over.
Well, he's like awkward, right?
Yeah.
Like he's like a weird guy, but that's why I thought it was just really interesting. I was like, what's with this guy? Like,
yeah,
I kind of wanted to just keep watching just to see what his deal was.
Yeah. He was really off-putting, and it was this kind of like they fly now, like that kind of like just, like Star Wars is like the apex like millennial dialogue movie. And he was just doing a lot of that, which I found really annoying.
Well, and like he like finally made friends with one of his enemies from the boot camp, pretending to be the knight, but then like it blows back in his face like immediately, and he like screws it up. And like, yeah, it's kind of like Bad Luck Brian, asexual, maybe mosaic Down syndrome, black guy.
That was why it was so like honestly kind of gross. That they made him like the love interest, Like, what is she do? Like, he is kind of retarded. Like, why is she trying to have sex with this guy? And like, it felt like she was like abusing a child. Like,
yeah.
Like all those teachers we keep hearing about.
Yeah, exactly. The best part for Maximus, in my opinion, was when he was in the vault, just like enjoying life. I was like, that's an interesting thing to show. I like.
Oh yeah, no. That honestly, if Studio D made the Fallout series, that would have been where he ended.
Yeah, that is his speed. That's I was thinking too.
It's where that young man belongs.
Like when he comes, I was actually hoping. I'm like I don't think they'll dare do this, but when before he goes and steals the power core and comes to save her, when she doesn't even need to be saved, right? Because they're gonna let her go. I was thinking that would be really pretty. Bold of them to just have his character be like, you know what? I like this place. I'm just going to stay here. I'm good. Like that would have been kind of, I think, a good thing for the series. But I understand that they didn't want to invest in him up 7 episodes and then get rid of him. But
what did you think of Chris Parnell?
Well, I thought that whole. I didn't find the like comedy bits that funny, but I did find the overall thing funny because so our main girl she's sort of this like libtard, right? And like she at that one part when she makes those pothead guys. She's like, free all the people in the cages. And they're like, but these are like freaks. Like, we don't want to do that. And she makes them do it anyway. And like half of them try to kill them and stuff. And then she goes to this place where Chris Parnell's in charge, and he's explaining how they like take in refugees, and like she's like, it's like real life libtards, where she's sort of like disgusted by the refugees, and that guy's disgusted by them too, but she doesn't know how to process it. She's like, oh, you guys are more humane than my vault, but also I don't like it here.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be like, he's the closest you've got to like a Archie Bunker like Chud in the show, which is it's like this subversion, like, oh, he's a weirdo, but he thinks they're all weirdos and he doesn't like them. But I thought
he even says he's like these refugees come and they smell and they have their weird food.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I kind of liked that he ended up being like close, like as close as there is to like a morally pure person in the whole series.
Well, that's what a lot of charity in real life actually looks like too. Is it's like I don't actually like these people, but like this is the right thing to do or something.
Yeah. And so that was like his like monologue about like, oh, I'm a dumb racist and I don't like having to respect people, like like that, that was retarded. But that whole dichotomy between them and like her vault dealing with raiders for the very first time, and being like, should we teach them John Stuart Mill?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were debating which philosopher to start with.
Yeah, to write their course.
Yeah, that was actually very funny. Like, how does a Redditor watch that? Do they get the joke? Like, do they get like, oh, that's me? Like, I'm.
Well, I think this is like, the Redditor is like, oh, I'm a tanky communist who's actually going to do what it takes. I'm not like these liberals. I think that's the angle they would take, a liberal watching this show.
Yeah, because the commies are the ones who are like serious.
Yeah, these guys aren't serious. They're managerial bourgeoisie.
Which, like, the whole deal with communism is that it is managerial, it is technocratic, it is like essentially trying to eradicate competition because competition is inefficient and wasteful. Like, that's all like right out of the book. But then they're like, oh, this is such a bad capitalist thing.
Well, what they're like is, well, our communism would have unlimited free energy if you guys got out of our way. See, we were right. And it's like, wait, what? Like, how are you doing infinite free things? Like, it's like your ideology only works with a magic spell.
Right, and the justification for like why the bad guys are bad, it's like, well, if we don't have a nuclear war, then we won't know how to sell these bunkers.
Yeah.
And like we gotta keep our profit margins up. We gotta make more money by blowing up the whole planet. And
which, like, sure, like war profiteering is a thing or whatever, but like, yeah, no company that is like trying to sell vaults to grandmas to make their money is going to be like, what if we killed all the grandmas? Like, that that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and it actually is the case that like there really isn't such a thing as nuclear war profiteering.
Right.
Like, there's not that much money in nukes, and there's not that much money in like,
ending civilization. Like right. Companies want the stock market to keep going.
Yes, and there is, a more nuanced case you could maybe make is that, from quarter to quarter, having the risk environment a little elevated, that sells some tanks and planes and bombs and whatever. Like, that's true. But to have the board of all the sort of jowly white men sitting around the table and being like, we'll blow up the planet. Like, that's just not...
Right, and I guess that's kind of like the theme of the movie is what it gets down to is the idea is there's all these factions and they're going to fight endlessly, and Vault Tech was like, well, what if we do our Vault experiment, wipe everyone out, and then have the best Vault repopulate the Earth, basically, like, and that will end war forever. Like that's like the big like idea of the Vault Tech people, I guess. And it's like, okay, if that's like their genius plan, then nuking the stuff makes sense.
Yeah, which is
but then at the same time, they're also like doing weird experiments on the vaults to like kind of ruin them and stuff. So
yeah,
which is true to the game, but like to a certain extent, it makes more sense to portray these companies as just like silly cartoonish companies, not as like a serious critique of capitalism.
Exactly. It's like they're stepping in and out, putting the clown nose on and off, like, oh, it's a silly video game, and they have silly. But then they're like, no, this is actually what capitalism is really all about. Like, we're really talking about some deep stuff here. Have you read Hegel? You know, and it's like it does make sense as like a comic book supervillain's plan.
Mm-hmm.
But they take it a little bit too seriously,
right? Because like when Goggins goes to the with his Native American friend to the who's in every Native American role, by the way. He's been in like several things recently that had Native Americans in them.
He's like Comanche in Hell or High Water, isn't he?
I think so, and he's in.
Wait, which guy? I think it's a different guy than the one.
He's got a Native American friend that got expelled for being a commie.
No, Granite. He's a big Indian guy with a ponytail. It can't be a different guy. It's that guy.
Oh no, it's not the Hell or High Water guy though. I don't think.
No, it definitely
it's a younger guy.
But no, he's in the Nathan Fielder show, and he's in the new Marvel Native American superhero show. But anyway, but yeah, when he goes to that meeting, I was like, all right, I'm going to listen to like the communist pitch, because that's what they're going to do right now is like, wow, communism really is the only answer, you know? And I liked that Goggins was like, this is a bunch of commie gobbledygook, and just walks off. I was like, yes. Because it wasn't very good of a enticement, but for some reason he still falls for it, mainly because he's like suspicious of his wife. Correctly, yeah.
Bennett, you had a comment about, and I think you've already referred to it here, but say more about the weird sort of psychosexual Brothers of Steel thing.
Yeah, it's real. Like he makes the Knight Titus, who's played by Michael Rappaport,
yeah,
whose whole career is just like being a white guy in a black neighborhood. Like that's his on camera, off camera. That's like he's the white guy who gets it, and he's down, and he like, you know, he's really hip. And but in this one, he's like a white face, like a dopey, like, you know, abusive white guy for no reason. And he makes the black guy clean his crotch plate.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, I'm bored. I want to shoot something. Like I'm a dumb, you know, jock or whatever. And he makes the guy like straddle his waist, like wrap his legs around him to get off the thing. And I was like, oh yeah, there's definitely some like buck breaking stuff going on here, like for sure.
Well, later when Maximus is posing as Titus, and he gets that new boy, and they're around the fire, and he's like, "Brand me!" Like that was just like,
yeah, I can't believe I let you brand me.
Yeah.
And it is this very much like nerds imagining what the high school locker rooms must be like.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're wrong. And also like, you're the weird one here. Like you're the one who's being weird about this.
Well, there's also, and the Brothers of Steel, they also have the, like, so in the first episode, I was pretty suspicious. I'm like, this is not going to work out. Like this show isn't going to work out for me, because they open with like early on, and I think Frasier pointed this out in the chat, but like there's like the domineering anti-communist dad who like punches a black guy to keep him out of the vault, and then like we soon after we see this like they them at the Brotherhood of Steel thing. And I was just sort of like, what is going on? Like, this is they're pushing it a little too hard, and I felt like they repeatedly were sort of they would put that sort of stuff front and center quickly and then pull it back.
Yeah,
Like kind of just like for the I guess the the actual the real life they thems online. They're like, look, we're gonna give you your thing real quick, but then we gotta pull it away for normal people who want to just enjoy something.
and I think it's also to create these conversations.
Yeah, yeah. Also, quite funny that the they them character cuts herself. we learn toward the end of the thing that she was doing it. She was doing it to herself. So
Yep, yep, and it's a shame because she'd be a really pretty girl.
yeah, without the mustache, but yeah.
Is that a WB?
A little less hormone therapy.
The mustache was funny though. I would laugh at it every time I saw it.
Yeah. Well, like okay, so I mean, lesbians in the military is like not that new. So I wasn't like, oh, they're wokeifying. I was like, yeah, if there was a chick in the Brotherhood of Steel, she'd probably have a buzz cut, and she'd probably, but then when the cleric is like respecting her pronouns,
yeah, like that unironic, like they were very upset. Although I like that guy in Mr. Robot.
Oh, that's where he's from. I was trying to remember him. Yeah, he plays a
Same
similar. Also, there's that big guy. The big guy he goes to visit, that Goggins goes to visit. I guess he's like the regional governor or president or something. He's sitting at the table and he's eating. That big guy, do you remember him? He's he's a big guy sitting at a table eating, being the boss in like 3 other movies too. He's always sitting at a table eating.
That's his deal.
Yeah.
What things I liked about it is they kind of had some of the like genre influences. So there was a lot of good like 50s nostalgia stuff. There was good Westerns, like the guy's a Western, but then like he does the actual Western thing at Eric Estrada's house. And then
that was funny. It was Eric Estrada. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you like good Western stuff, good zombie stuff. Like I thought it was like, that's kind of the cool part of Fallout is it's kind of this mishmash of genre. Mm-hmm. And they kind of threw it all in there. And I was like, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's a good point. It really is. They're doing sci-fi plus Western plus zombie. There's probably some other stuff mixed in there too.
Yeah.
Was Fallout 1 and 2, were they doing a lot of the Western stuff, or was that mainly start with New Vegas?
No, yeah. I mean, because it takes place it's very Western. Yeah. And there's like, cowboy characters and blah, blah, blah. And yeah.
Yeah,
New Vegas was a return to Fallout 1 and 2 from the original writers, as I understand it.
So Fallout 3 is not New Vegas, though, right? That's something else.
Fallout 3 it takes place in DC, and then Fallout New Vegas is built on Fallout 3, but takes place in Vegas, obviously.
Oh, so it's like the same like look and feel, like game mechanics and stuff.
Yeah, same engine.
Yeah, just like a skin over the game.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing is like in like Fallout 2 and stuff, like, there's mixtures of like tribal people living like a weird cultish tribal life, worshipping old technology. Then there's like high-tech Brothers of Steel. There's, weird mad scientists in the Enclave. There's all kinds of interesting stuff going on. And like, that was the fun part of Fallout 1 is there was a travel system where you would go to a map and you would pick where you wanted to go, like which quadrant. Uh-huh. But every once in a while you'd have random encounters, kind of like a old school tabletop RPG. And like in the random encounters, you never knew if it was going to be an alien or a, pack of wild animals or what. Like, and so the kind of like random encounters of the show, I appreciated.
Yeah, they did a good job of capturing that feel of like just sort of wandering around, bumping into stuff.
And there, each person is like a quirky character with a weird backstory. Like,
Yeah. Back to the Brotherhood of Steel thing. Yeah, it was like that's exactly what it is. It's like nerds. It's a nerd's idea of what jocks are like, and it's just like this sort of mindlessly abusive, like hierarchical for no reason. Like there's no duties that go downward. All the duties go upward. So it's all the sort of servants and the exploited classes being made to serve the higher. But it's like they're also like saying outright that like, yeah, everybody gets to like you have the opportunity to prove yourself and to rise and to become this other thing. And the idea that everybody in that hierarchy would be not interested in developing you into something better and more powerful. Like they just clearly don't understand how leadership works at all. They don't understand how like human organization works at all.
Yeah. Although like to a certain extent, that's the idea of the game is like there's not a good side. There's not like a good faction to join, right?
Yeah.
Because like the Brotherhood of Steel is cool because like they got cool technology and the best guns and stuff. But then like they are just kind of idiots, and like their philosophy is we need to use all this technology to make sure nobody gets this technology. And like, the New California Republic is like, oh, ghouls are welcome here and no guns and it's a paradise. But then like, they've got all their like corruption and weird stuff they're doing,
Yeah, they're sort of the, they were sort of the, and it's interesting. The show destroys their whole thing. Cause like in New Vegas, they're like
the hope.
The West Coast. They run like basically the whole West Coast of America has returned to like, let's say 19th century ish standards of development and security. But here basically it got kind of smothered in the cradle in Shady Sands and never happened. And so, their thing in New Vegas was that they were basically like, hooray, we got back to like old world democracy and market economy. And then you just sort of have the recurrence of all the problems with liberal democracy and a market economy. That's sort of the war never changes thing, right? Like it's,
right.
Which I think is pretty interesting. And like with the Brotherhood of Steel, like, yeah, I get that they're kind of dumb, but like in this show, it's like there's no respect in which they're like not dumb.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that you go like, oh yeah, these guys have something admirable. Like, like there's a take that you can like understand about what they're saying. Because like, in some iterations of the game, the Brotherhood of Steel, like they really are trying to keep like dangerous stuff out of the hands of bad people, and they really are like trying to maintain order and keep things stable at least. And they're just sort of like schoolyard bullies who just happen to be holding it's like who's got the power armor. Like Titus isn't a knight because he like did anything or knows anything. He's just the guy who has the suit, which is a very like communist take on what it means to run things.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. What'd you guys think of the like the nerdy guy with the glasses from Lost? What was in his neck? What was the thing? And then also, what did you think of his whole thing?
He had cold fusion in his neck.
Yeah,
that's where they put the cold fusion.
But it was like RFID tag or something that like unlocked the code or something. Or
no, I think it was like the core or whatever.
Yeah, it was like an actual.
But it's like a teeny little pill
reaction. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like all that guy ever plays, right? Is like the sort of weird, uncanny, like morally ambiguous dude. What the hell's his deal? Like that's just he's just really good at making you ask that question.
A lot of dog killing.
Yeah,
this, which was good.
They saved the dog.
They burned a little puppy in the thing just for fun.
Yeah, they said burn all the ones under 10 ounces or something.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that dog had no loyalty. That dog would, like, if you stabbed him, it was like whatever. Like, he would just follow around whoever said it was time to follow around. Like,
realistic dog moment.
yeah, exactly. Like, people are like, oh, I can't bear it. My dog, he misses me so much. It's like, no, he just likes people and food and pets.
Yeah. Dog listeners now.
Hot take on the Granite Mountain Movie Club.
We talk about dead dogs all the time.
Stir up some controversy here.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then I don't have anything else really, but one thing that's funny, I don't know. This was made by Jonathan Nolan, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know how if he wrote. I don't know if
he wrote and directed at least the first two. I didn't see if he directed all of them.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of like Nolan fingerprints on this.
Yeah, maybe without Christopher Nolan directing, it ends up being something different. But
what faction are you guys going if you're in the Wasteland?
Oh, so what are the options? The Brotherhood of Steel,
New California Republic, Enclave. You could just be a raider.
Caesar's Legion.
Caesar's Legion, not mentioned in this one, and then you could be a Vault Dweller. I guess you could go Vault Tech too in this.
Oh man, if they go to New Vegas in the next season, and they deal with Caesar's Legion, that's going to be really interesting. Because Caesar's Legion is like actual like they really are fascists, and the Caesar guy is like this. He grew up in like the libtard faction, and he went to like go spread the good news about being a libtard to some natives, and like basically he read Nietzsche, and it made him insane, and then he did this like Heart of Darkness thing and made all the Raider clans get together, and then they sort of created this Caesar LARP, and they're basically like halfway between the Romans and like the Mongols in the sense that they like are infinitely expanding and basically like their whole deal is like we're so scary and brutal and savage that like everyone just surrenders to us because because like we'll do anything. We have no limits, and sort of that kind of hostile take on the Ubermensch, which is like if you're sort of a commie libtard in 2024, that would be like a very useful faction to incorporate into the show. So it'll be interesting if they go that way.
Yeah, and I assume is their headquarters Caesar's Palace in Vegas?
No, it probably was in the original. Like that's probably why there's a Caesar's Legion in New Vegas. But they actually started in Colorado and or Arizona, and basically the conflict in New Vegas is that the NCR and the Caesar's Legion have both come to the Colorado River, and they're fighting over the dam, the Hoover Dam outside Vegas. So
I'd be the Trump International Hotel Las Vegas faction.
yeah.
Mandalay Bay faction.
I mean, I like Mr. House. Mr. House is he's your Ayn Rand libertarian. I built this city so it's mine, and he has an army of robots that do his bidding, and that's probably as close as it gets for me.
Yeah, I'd probably just be a guy on his own. The Raider.
That's Yes Man. There's a in New Vegas there's a robot who will like give you control of the other robots, and that makes you like the boss of the Wasteland. That's you. That's your faction.
Oh, Fred, what did you guys think of the Fred Armisen cameo?
Pointless.
Oh yeah, well, so one thing I liked with the Hollywood setting, I felt like it could be used to like make fun of a lot of Hollywood, which they kind of got into, but not really.
Yeah, there was a lot of like generic Wasteland stuff. Like a lot of what they pulled from was from Fallout 4, which takes place in Boston. And so it's like they're sort of lampooning just these sort of universal 50s Americana things when in New Vegas, they were definitely having fun with the setting itself. And it would be interesting for them to dig more into the LA thing, but they probably won't because they're probably going to Vegas.
I like the Fred Armisen. Two things about it. I like the reveal when they show that he's just been killing anyone who tries to bother him. And also I like the little music conversation where the guy doesn't know anything.
Oh yeah, the kids.
Like, yeah, people don't know anything about music, do they? Anyway, in general, yeah, pretty good show. I mean, I wasn't like not crazy about it. I was not in love with it, but it was better than I anticipated.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it kept me on board for sure.
Oh, and that reminds me, I've watched so many movies the last like 2 or 3 years. I barely watch TV at all. I forgot how TV just goes down so easy. Like sometimes like a 2 or 3 hour movie starts to feel a little long, but like you can just crank out like an 8-hour TV show. Just like, I don't know, it's just a completely different thing. I don't know what it is. I mean, I do know what it is. It's just written differently and the story is told differently, but yeah, like the empty calorie nature of TV is, I kind of forgotten about that. Forgotten what it felt like, at least.
Yeah.
TV never changes.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Alrighty.
Later. Oh, cool, Frasier. I didn't give you an opportunity to say your tagline.
Oh, yeah, I'm cool and I'm listening, and Zazie Beetz should have been in it.
Zazie Beetz could easily have slotted in somewhere.
She's gonna be in the second. I know it. She's gotta be. She'll be Joshua Graham's daughter.
Oh, is that the black guy who's like a cowboy or something?
No, that's the Mormon acolyte ghoul.
Oh, okay.
Is he a ghoul?
He's wrapped up. I don't know if he's a ghoul.
I thought he was actually just like a standard like burn victim.
Maybe that's what he is.
Yeah.
I actually have never played New Vegas, so I don't know.
Oh man, New Vegas is fantastic, and yeah, Joshua Graham, he's like he's
the
our
burned
guy.
man.
He's like the only he's your DesNet representation. First time I've ever seen myself on the screen. You know what I mean? He's literally me.
Okay, thank you guys. We will be back soon.
No, I want to talk more, Granite.
Oh, what? Well, you got more?
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
No. No, if you have a take, it's cool, but I'm out of takes. I know that. Oh, one thing. There's this trend in shows, male nudity only. I mean, they did end up having those like weird cult ladies, but
it's like Nat Geo boobs.
Yeah, but there's this thing at TV shows now. It's like they just only show male nudity for some reason. Well,
and movies.
Yeah. All right, on the topic of male nudity, I'm out.
See you guys.
See you
later.
later.